Okay, back with closing trades. It's flat for the index, mind you, but it's anything but flat for the metals and particularly Tata Steel. Now 300 or 280, so many people said that hey, it's sub book, so go out and buy it. It went down all the way to 200. It was at a much better valuation than it's ever been, I guess. And now at 317, 5.5% higher. Suddenly had a chorus of calls saying that go out and buy some of these steel stocks, go out and buy some of these metal stocks. That's a strong move that's come into Tata Steel. And I think it's followed up by some of the other names as well. Maybe not a JSPL, but I think SAIL or a JSW Steel, the pure play steel stocks in particular in today's session have done very well. Just to point out, SAIL is up 6%. I think JSW Steel too has probably put in a 5 or a 6% kind of a rally. So smart moves that are coming out there for the 8%. Okay, smart moves that are coming out there for some of the steel stocks. The pure play steel stocks in particular have done very well. Sandeep Wagle joins in with his sense of the charts and his stock recommendations rather. Sandeep, what are the stocks that you're recommending right now? And if you have a metal stock, then great. If not, then give me a view on Tata Steel.
Neeraj, I would not buy Tata Steel because we have bought it much lower, and this is the time we are recommending booking of at least some profits nearer to 50%. So we are not I'm not going to recommend a buy in Tata Steel or any other metal space. For the day, I have a buy in Havells, stop loss of 636, target 667, and a buy in IRB Infra, stop loss 73, target 84. Okay,
Sandeep, thanks a lot for giving us those recommendations. Much appreciate you taking the time out. Ambareesh Baliga joins in, the sense of the fundamentals. Ambareesh, good having you. Thanks for joining in. Were you amongst the few who advised their clients for a trading buy at 5,300, 5,400? And if so, what is it that you're telling them now?
In fact, we didn't ask people to buy at 5,300, 5,400. In fact, I was suggesting earlier to book out a certain extent on rally. And surely, yes, beyond 56, 50, 5700 levels, I mean, I also did not expect the markets to shoot up like this based on short covering and fresh buying. But yes, I think one needs to, I mean, clearly go with the way the markets are and not really try and time it or go against that. So I think at this point of time, that momentum is clearly there, and the way things are, it's very much possible that we could see levels closer to 6,000. But would I ask people to buy now, those who have missed out buying earlier? Surely not. I think, I mean, there's a bit too much of euphoria at this point of time. We have moved clearly from, extreme pessimism to some sort of euphoria. So I think it's best to wait for a while, wait for a correction, which I think is bound to happen because, markets are clearly volatile. And I think one should wait for a correction before really buying.
Ambareesh, afternoon, as we wait with bated breath for that crucial deal to emerge between Jayaprakash Associates and UltraTech Cement, there is word that it might not be a cash flow positive for the Gores and for the Jayaprakash Associate Group on account of the staggered payment clause. Is there anything that you're hearing, and what's your view if the deal were to happen at levels of close to 3,800 to 4,000 crores?
I mean, every time we hear of a deal for Jayaprakash, somehow the stock moves up, and then we hear that the deal has fallen through. I just hope that does not happen this time. And in case it goes through, yes, I suppose we should see some more upside. It has moved up very smartly from those lower levels of 30, and I think once it goes through, possibly you could see levels closer to about 55, 58.
The Bank Nifty futures is certainly exhibiting quite a bit of resilience, up by a good 204 points today. Interestingly, Ambareesh, there was a report coming in from a brokerage just downgrading a slew of PSU banks, but they seem to be absolutely paying no heed to that. In fact, we're seeing a lot of build-up coming in. Would you be worried about the earnings season on account of the way the rupee has panned out in terms of some of these names?
Clearly, like I said earlier, just because, there's a euphoric sort of a scenario on the street does not really change the fundamentals overnight. And I'm still worried about the asset quality of the banks. I don't think the NPA issue can be solved overnight. And unless you have the economy, really recovering from the levels where we are now, I don't see the credit growth happening. I think that's another set of worry. So surely, just because the banks have moved up does not mean that one should go out and buy banks at this point of time. Surely it's not an investor's buy. It could be a trader's bet for a while because of the, of the momentum. But I would surely suggest that if we see higher levels, I think it's possibly time to book out to a certain extent from the PSU sector.
JP Associates, I know Avan just asked Ambareesh about that. It's a clarification from the JP group saying that as and when some transactions materialize, they'll make the appropriate announcement through stock exchanges. But little doubt about what's going to transpire today. The only question mark is whether the deal happens at a much favorable valuation or no. And Ambareesh, I know Avan just asked you about that probably, but just wondering if indeed the contours of the deal involve maybe a delayed payment or a staggered payment, and everybody's pricing in maybe 3,500 to 4,000 crores coming into JP Associates in a matter of a couple of weeks, and that will take care of some part of immediate debt problems. If indeed it's a staggered problem and happens at a lower valuation, do you think the run up in the stock has been too fast, too swift, and we may actually see a bit of a correction as well, because it is probably not on the best of terms?
If it is a staggered payment and also the valuations are lower than what the market is expecting, yes, I suppose you should see a correction, because finally, they want to sell this plant basically to pay off their debts, and if that is not going to happen immediately, so I suppose I think it's more than already priced into the stocks, and the way it has moved up in the last 2 weeks, I think you should see a correction in that case.
You know, it's the PSU banks really which take the breath away. Canara Bank is now up 7%. Some of the others too have done very well. We've spoken about that. UCO Bank, for example, up 9%. I think the telling point in today's session was the kind of OI build up. I mean, 15-20% OI on PSUs one sudden day is not something that happens without any kind of follow up that would come in. So lots of long build up that's happened in these stocks, and they're doing very well right now. We've spoken about some PSU trades out there. Ambareesh, you probably answered as well. My question really is, a lot of these stocks would be available at sub-book. Everybody talking about or questioning the validity of the kind of book values that some of these banks might be sitting on as well. But you know, just speaking to a couple of fund managers, and they mentioned about the fact that because of the change in rules with regards to disclosure of the bond losses or the bond portfolio losses, the quarterly numbers will not look as bad and may surprise quite positively. Do you think that is something that could work in favor of PSUs, and therefore fundamentally there could be a couple of stocks that you could actually nibble into as well, even when they are 10% higher?
No, I don't think bond losses was a major issue, because end of the day it's only a book adjustment, and finally when you market to maturity, it does not make too much of a difference. I think the major worry as far as the banks is concerned, like I said, it's twofold. One is clearly the NPAs moving up, because more and more the economy does not improve from here. You will surely have more NPAs coming up. At the same time, the sort of a credit growth which we have seen in the recent past of closer to 16-17%, that's surely not going to happen if the economy does not improve. So I think these are the two major factors which will keep that pressure on the banks.
Building up momentum on the frontline indices, as now it's 20 points up on the Nifty at 59.17. 20,000 once again has been surpassed on the Sensex. And of course, we've been pointing out how select metal counters have also been gaining quite a bit of traction. So you are seeing quite a bit of interest in names like a Jindal SAW up by something like 10%, JSW Steel, as well as SAIL and Tata Steel. But it's been the broader markets which are continuing to hold up, and that has been resilient from the word go. So the CNX small cap index is now up something like 2%, which brings me, Ashwini, to some of the small cap trading recommendations that you have.
On the small caps, I think, one sec. Delta Corp is a buy with a stop of 58, target of 77. JBF Industries is a buy with a stop of 89, target of 119, and Inox Leisure is a buy with a stop of 63, target of 84.
Okay, mind you, Delta Corp, of course, I think in a few days from now they officially give out, wow, okay, that's Siemens. I was just in the middle of Delta Corp, but just the way Siemens came up took my breath away. That's a stunning move. I'll come to that as well, because it was a consensus buy recommendation from our experts. But just coming on the subject of Delta Corp first, they officially inaugurate one more casino in the state of Goa. and that could be one reason why the stock might be seeing a build up. So just watch out. There's a bit of a tailwind to this. Whether or not it lasts or no remains to be seen. There's a bit of a tailwind to Delta Corp. Now coming to Siemens, and up 12% in trade. Yesterday the news came in. I'm just wondering whether some of the other stocks, other MNC stocks like ABB, etc., have gone up also or no. But one fundamental trigger for some of these stocks is that the promoters of the foreign-owned entities can actually increase the stakeholding in their companies without notifying the RBI. So that can happen, and maybe that's why some of these entities are going up again. Siemens up, ABB, I think Alstom India is the other one that was up and about in trade yesterday. Just wondering whether that Alstom India is also doing well or not. 325 or 350 or thereabouts is what, not TND. Alstom India is the one that I'm talking about. 341, up another 4.5%, so 341 in today's session as well. Firstly, to you, Mitesh, both you and Ashwini had a buy on Siemens yesterday. It's just given a bit of a flash uptick. Would you book profits here?
It's kind of come down from 570, Neeraj. I think, yes, I would take profits. 570 is a 200-day average. My target was around 525, 530. So I would be comfortable taking profits here as well.
Taking profits in Siemens is Mitesh Thakkar, 519, still up 8% in trade, 42 points higher. It's a good show out there. Ambareesh, what's the call really? I mean, does this call for some of the PSC or rather MNC companies and the belief that they will increase their stakes slowly but gradually and therefore give a bit of a floor to the prices for these companies, if not fundamentally, then at least sentimentally?
Yeah, surely. I mean, it would be expected that the promoters may increase their stake because clearly, I think RBI will be taking a lot of steps to get dollars in, and you will also see, announcements to this effect even going ahead. So I suppose, stocks like Siemens and ABB, I think they can hold on at these levels clearly because this expectation would be there that the promoters may increase stake.
We were talking about the metal stocks and the kind of momentum that you're seeing there. Jindal SAW, JSW Steel, SAIL as well as Tata Steel. And Ambareesh, we understand that, if the CCI today takes up some of the stalled projects for approval, you could see a further up move in some of these names. What's your sense?
That is one point. I think the other point, as far as the steel companies are concerned, clearly I think the cycle has turned up, especially with Europe starting to do better than what we had seen the last 2 years. There are hopes that China also would be recovering well. So I think these are the two factors because of which we have seen a lot of interest in the metal stocks, and we firmly believe that yes, possibly the cycle is turning. And yes, against that, like most of these stocks have already shot up quite a lot. So I surely will not buy at the current juncture, but surely wait for a correction to buy, especially a stock like Tata Steel.
Bit of a mixed basket coming in there for the cement space. We've been talking about how some of the names from the broader markets have been gaining traction, but Ambuja Cements is looking a bit quiet. ACC is up by 2.5%, and Ultratech Cement, on account of the deal news ahead of that, is up by just about 1.5%. Mitesh, would you be playing on any of these on the long side?
We had a call on Ambuja yesterday, I think, and ACC, I think intraday call. I'm not sure cement is an outperforming sector, so for the time being, it looks positive to me, but I would prefer to go have exposure on the banking side.
Hey Ambareesh, everybody's talking about this deal from the angle of JP Associates. What about Ultratech? It's got a large capacity in West India. Almost 29% of its sales comes from West India. And in all probability, I'm just assuming it's a done deal, but assuming that it is, in all probability, it adds another 4 million tons to its existing capacity. What happens to Ultratech as a result of this deal?
No, again, it depends on the sort of valuations. If the valuations are extremely decent as far as Ultratech is concerned, then surely it would be some sort of a positive for that stock. So it will be like negative for JP, whereas positive for Ultra.
Okay, so much more to talk about. FT, MCX, lots of individual names are up and about in trade today. But let's get a sense of what dealing rooms are suggesting in trade. And Yatin and Darshan joining to speak about that. Star each to both of you. Yatin spoke about JP deal at 10:30. Darshan spoke about Spark at 9:30. Both of those stocks are extremely active. Yatin, I'll start with you first.
Well, Neeraj, if you look at the dealing rooms, they have been, quite bullish on the overall banking space as well as the financial space. IDFC is one stock wherein they are expecting some action on the upside. They're anticipating that the stock could touch levels of nearly 98 in the next few trading sessions. Of course, almost a 5% upside still left from the current market price, so they are maintaining a buy here. Also, if you look at Raymond, yesterday we were talking about Raymond as to how most of the HNIs have been accumulating the stock. Today also, the HNIs, same set of HNIs have been aggressive buyer in the stock. You've seen a significant volume spike in the stock in both the future and option segment as well in the cash segment. And most of the dealers are anticipating that the stock could give returns of nearly 15% in the very short term. So this is one stock wherein dealers are maintaining a positional buy.
Yeah, something like 16% in the last 2 days itself. As we speak, Raymond is building up traction close to 9% higher at 229 thereabouts. But Darshan, sale at levels of up by close to 5.5%. What are dealing rooms saying?
See, if you look at sale, what some of the desks have indicated that some of the leading DIIs, they have accumulated sale in trade today. They are expecting some kind of corporate announcement to come in the next few days. Probably some of them gave us an indication could be some kind of mine approval, but there is no clarity on this. But sale is something that today a lot of buying is happening and dealers are recommending at this point of time. If you look at AB Nuvo also, slowly and silently this counter has moved. In fact, from the lows of this month, almost 13% has been the gain. The counter is up close to 4.5%. Some of the major FIIs have started accumulating and they have bought in trade today. And finally, Tata Power is something that dealers are recommending. Some of them have indicated that most of the selling that had to come into the counter has been over, and probably a little bit of buying will start again on the counter.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. It's just that some of the stocks which have not participated are participating. Power, metal, rather PSU banks, etc. Darshan and Yatin, thanks so much for getting us those recommendations. Okay, let's get in, just before getting the closing comments, I'm just spotting a couple of these names. Real estate is seeing a build up as well. Unitech and Indiabulls, for example, have added some 10% in OI, and we've seen stocks like Century or Raymond or a couple of others move about in the session as well. Mitesh, you were bullish on these. I think Century was a recommendation yesterday. Raymond was probably one today morning as well. What do you do with these stocks?
Neeraj, I think we've been trading on the long side, and I would continue to hold Raymond. I think the target which I was looking for was 226. That's been crossed, but the next target is around 237. So I think that leaves me about 10 odd rupees of trading upside still left. Would be comfortable holding on to this one. Century also, I think I would hold for targets around 255.
Okay, before we get in the final comment from Ambareesh Baliga, I think it's just that time of the show when we take in closing strategies. Just wanting to point out a couple of stocks. We've been speaking about FT the whole morning or whole afternoon. MCX2 is up close to 5% in trade. So that one has resumed its uptrend after a couple of days of dog tick. So 5% higher for MCX at 458. But FT is the one which is clearly hogging the limelight on the mid-cap space today. But 320, let's get in those closing strategies from Ashwini and Mitesh. Ashwini, to you first. It's flat for the index. What are you doing with specific trades, your top BTST or STBT, as the case may be?
Well, now, above 5,900, all kinds of cats and dogs start flying, which were not looking so good at 51 and 5,200. So chances are that while the market churns, every day you'll have a new sector that will come on the radar, and the chances are that today is PSU banks, tomorrow could be capital goods. So basically buy on dips should be the strategy. Fresh buying is avoidable. I don't think we are going to make new highs, but something from 5850 right up to 6050 sort of range is possible. And on individuals, DLF is a buy with a stop of 148, a target of 162 is likely here.
What about you, Mitesh?
I'll choose the Bank of Baroda at about 518, 519 can be bought with a stop at 512 for a short target of 530, 533. This is more of a BTST kind of call.
7% have a Bank of Baroda, DLF, and no surprise out there. I spoke about how some of the others too have seen quite a bit of long build up. Ambareesh, before we let you go, what are you advising your clients to do now? on some of the high beta trades. I mean, my question really centered towards whether some of the high beta pockets are still worth staying long on. The obvious call would be to book profits, but are there some which are still looking strong?
In fact, the way we see it is possibly the markets will hold on, I mean, based on the expectation of the monetary policy. So basically, you have another 6 to 7 trading days when the markets could actually hold on in this range of possibly 5,800 on the lower side, 6,000, 6,050 on the higher side. So basically, it's a trader's market, and we surely will not, suggest investors to get in at this point of time after the sort of a rally which we have seen. But there's one pocket where possibly one can still look at investing is the oil marketing companies, which will basically benefit from the oil prices coming down, and at the same time you have the rupee appreciating, and these stocks haven't really moved up too much from the lows which you've seen in the recent past. So I think even at the current levels, I think one can look at buying HPCL, which is I think currently quoting at about 189, 190.
Ambareesh Baliga, always a pleasure having you. Thanks so much for taking the time out and being with us and giving us your views. That's Ambareesh Baliga, Managing Partner of the Global Wealth Management business of Edelweiss. Okay, 7 minutes to go before we shut shop for the day. JP is rolling high at 5.